Hello everyone, I'm Paul and welcome to Gellin Outdoors. Today on the Kubota, it's the 50-hour service. One thing to note here today is that I'm going to do a little bit more than just the regular 50-hour service. It'll be a little bit different from the standard service. And also I'll show you a couple of tips, so let's get started. I'll start off with the axle in the front. And if we come up here to the front, it's going to set my light up here. Down here on the bottom of the axle here, you can follow down. I've got a socket already on here. It's a 14 millimeter or 9/16. And I'm going to undo this drain plug here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get it broke so I can get it loose. I'm going to break it loose. I can put that on there. Okay guys, I got it broken loose now. I can take this ratchet off. I'm going to show you a little trick that I've done here. So I've got a piece of cardboard. On the back of the cardboard I've got a piece of Velcro. And inside the tub here I've got a piece of rubber. Now you can use a piece of wood or whatever with another piece of Velcro, and you can put on back to back. The reason I do that is that now here, as you can see, the drain plug will have the fluid directly onto the rim of the tire, so we don't want that. So what I do is I stuff the cardboard, because I have the little block underneath. I stuff it underneath here, and then I'll pull my pan up here this way, and you can see now it all drips straight down inside. So I'm just going to undo the nut here with the bolt to get it started. Now this part of the 50-hour service is not part of it. It's part of the 400-hour service, but I want to change all my transmission fluid on the tractor. So I've got the bolt here. I just got to get it out from where it is. It's jammed in there. One thing to note is that if your tractor is new, you're going to have some paint. You can see the paint on the bolts here. It makes it a little bit tight on the socket, so you're going to have to try and get the bolt free from the socket once you get it out. Now again, it's hard to get them on when the tractor's new because of the paint. Here again, I have the cardboard and the pan to catch all the fluid. So I just break it loose, and I'll turn the nut here just by hand. Now once again, this is basically something that you do at the 400-hour mark, not the 50-hour service, but I want to remove all my fluid. I've got to reuse all the fluid that I'm pulling out. I have another purpose for it, so that's partly why. And the other reason is I want to show you. Oh, I got that cardboard a little bit sloppy. You can see it getting a little bit on the garage floor. Got to be more careful with that. So obviously I didn't have my cardboard in place. And then up at the top here, you can see there's the vent, and the fluid is, when it goes through, it's pulling in some air, so it'll vent. I'm going to pull the up on the top here beside there, you can see the yellow fill plug. I'm just going to pull that. A little hard from down here, but there, I pulled it out, I popped it off, and that's just to help with the air to vent it a little bit better. So I'm just going to put my fill plug here. And I'm going to leave it down here on the floor, and I'm going to leave the bolt here as well down here on the floor in front of the pan. Again, you can see there's a little washer that comes with it. So I got to get the screwdriver again because of the paint. I'm just going to try and get that out of there. So there we go. So I'll put my nut there, or bolt there. So I've got the front end draining here. This will take a while. I want it to drain as long as I can get it to drain. Okay guys, I'm going to put back the plugs, the drain plugs on the front axle here. Just going to wipe it up a little bit. But I did wipe up the bolt already, or the plug. I'm just going to try and twirl that in there. Again, be careful that you don't cross thread anything when you're putting things back. And also make sure that you do have your washer on it. Okay, so, and everything that you're going to tighten up as far as these bolts you're just going to put them snug. You're not going to crank them or anything like that. So I'm just going to put it snug. I've got it too loose here. Okay, so it's just tight there now, and I'm just going to give it just a touch. That's all you need. You don't need a lot of torque on that at all. I'm going to remove my oil cardboard here, and I'm going to move my pan a little bit out of the way so I can go to the other side. So we're here on the other side. I'm going to remove the cardboard out of the way, and I'm just going to wipe it up a little bit. And the bolt here, I already cleaned it as well. So we'll just put that back in there. A little hard doing this for the camera when you're stretching across. Normally I wouldn't be this. Whoop, there it goes into the hydraulic fluid. Just as I was saying, I'm too far from the camera. Or trying to get out of the way of the camera rather. So now I've got this stuff all slippery on my hand. So anyways, let's get that bolt in there. Oh, it's hard to hold when it's slippery, especially with rubber gloves. I'm just making sure it threads in nice, and now it does, so I'll just twirl it in. I'll get the ratchet on it. There's still lots of paint on that bolt, so it's hard to get the socket on. Just going to try and put the socket on first. Holy smokes, that's hard to get on there. Okay, now I've got it on. Get my ratchet in there. Okay, and I just get it tightened up. Okay, so it just went snug there, and I just give it a touch extra. That's it. So now I get my little pan out of the way a little bit more, and I'm going to wipe up my mess a little bit here. A little bit got on the tire. This is the side I ended up spilling. I didn't have my cardboard straight. Okay guys, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up the axle, and in order to do that I need a long funnel, and this one I've got here is 17 inches or 43 millimeters, or just a touch over 43 millimeters. Down here you can see where I pulled the plug here, or the dipstick for the axle fluid to be put into. I'm just going to insert that in there, and then I'm going to take my hydraulic fluid and I'm going to fill it up. Now the thing here is to make sure, again, read your manual to know how much fluid that you're supposed to put in there. In my case here, basically it tells me to put 4.7 liters, so that's what I'm going to do. I've got a 5-liter jug, so I'm going to put just a little bit less than that. Now again, once you pour it all in, you're going to wait about 10 minutes or so, and then you're going to check with the dipstick to make sure that you have the right level. So I'm just going to put my arms down in here, trying to get the I'm going to try and get the jug up here. Actually, I'm just going to pour it from a high distance. You can see why you could use even a longer funnel than I'm using here. So I'm going to pour almost the whole jug in here. Once the jug starts to get a little bit lighter, I'm going to slow down how fast I'm going with this stuff. And the reason for that is because I want to make sure that it gets down, because it's going to, it's got a very small vent on it, and the fluid will seep down slowly. It's not going to go really fast into the axle, especially on the far side. Okay, I'm going to put the fill plug in now that I've got all the fluid. So I'm just going to pull the filter out. I'll just put it here on the towel, and I'm just going to pop that in. I'm not going to check it yet because I want to let it sit there for 10 minutes. I want to start the tractor up. So I'm just going to leave it there. Now, one thing I may make that easier, may not have to have a longer funnel, is if you had your tractor arms up in the air, so you get underneath here with a short funnel, and you could probably pour it in a lot easier. So anyways, just do it the way you can. Okay guys, basically the next thing to do is to drain the oil from the tractor, and I'm just close by where the loader arms attach here to the mounting brackets, and just underneath here there are 2 bolts, drain plugs, one here and then one on this side, and it's a 17 millimeter socket or 11/16. So I'll just undo both of them and we'll drain it down here into the pan. So I'll just open that up. It's going to come out fairly quick. There's the right side. I'm just going to pull the bolt out. There should be a washer here as well. Again, it's because of the paint. I've got to use a screwdriver to get the socket back, or the bolt back out of the socket. There we go. And I'm just going to leave the bolt by the pan. And I'm going to take off the second one here on the left side. And just get underneath where I can see it. Get that up there. And there we go. Break it loose. And I'll just use the socket to take it off. Now, basically, you can see here I have a long socket. You may need an extension bar if you don't have long sockets. In my case, I'm able to just use a long socket, so it's not too bad. I can probably get that by hand here now. And we're going to let that drain for a little bit. There we go. Get that one off. So we'll move the oil pan a little bit here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bolts back for the oil pan as well while I'm down here. Again, make sure that you have the little washers on your plugs. It's going to wipe it up before I put the plug in. We'll tighten it up here. Make sure no cross threading once again. We'll twirl that right in there nice and tight. Same thing on the other side. Make sure everything's clean. Just wipe it up. Oh, I can see a little bit of dirt there on my plug. We don't want that. The filter will catch it, but still we don't want any dirt. And we'll twirl that guy back up in there too. And we'll get the socket on there. That's a 17, so we'll have to switch to one we had for the other plugs. Again, don't over crank these things here. They only need to be snug. Basically, you just get them snug and then you come back and you check them to make sure they're not leaking. So that's just snug there. The little copper washers there, so you don't want to crush them too much. And if you do crush one too much, basically just order a new one. That's all you have to do, and put it on. There we go. So we got that on there. So the next thing, I'm going to go top side and we're going to change the oil filter. All right, let's get the oil filter off. To do that, I'm just going to remove the side panel here. There's a vented side panel. I'm just going to put this here up on the top. And down here you can see the filter. Now to get the filter not to, when I take it off, not to get fluid all over the wires, what I do is I put a cardboard in here and I'm going to make sure it's far enough back, and just down below where I have it's going to drip down, there's going to be, you can see down there I've got my oil pan. So I just got to get the wrench on that. I don't know what I did with the wrench. There we go. Just got to get the wrench on it. Tighten it up. It's going to break it loose. Oh, that's still too much for hand tightness there. Okay. So when I take that filter off, I'm going to hold the cardboard in place to prevent it from pushing out so the oil does not get on to the wires. It's a lot of twirling. There's the oil there now. Okay, so I can just drain my oil into the pan down below a little bit, and we'll remove that. So while that's dripping out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the filter ready. I've got the filter just beside me here. Just going to wipe my hands up here, so remove the packaging. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the seal, some new fresh oil. I like these new style ones here. Years back they didn't have the piece that came out like this here on the spout. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my hand. And then I'm just going to put it on the seal here. Or the gasket, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I'm going to just wipe in here a little bit before I put the new filter on. Just get my rag in there, just wipe it up. And I'm going to leave the cardboard in place for right now. I'm going to wipe the cardboard though, get the oil off of it. I'm going to leave it there until I got my filter on. You can see why it took me so long to twirl it off. This thing is about over an inch long anyway, so. Okay, so we're going to put it on, make sure we don't cross thread it. Try to get it centered. Okay, feels good there. Okay, so it's just stuck up there. I'm going to remove the cardboard. I'm going to use the towel because the get a little bit better grip with the towel. I'm not going to use a wrench on this, just use it by hand. I'll be able to put it tight enough. There we go, so that should be good. And you can see here, using the cardboard, there's no oil on the wiring harness at all, so that's good to use the cardboard in there. Alright guys, let's get started by putting the oil back in. So you can see here on the right hand side of the tractor there's an oil plug or oil cap, the filler cap here. I can take this off here and I'm going to put a funnel down inside and then we're going to pour some oil in that funnel. Just going to try and hook it up there. I'm going to put my cap somewhere where I don't lose it, maybe just up here, hopefully I don't bump it. So guys, when I put the oil in, what I'm doing is I'm only going to put so much at a time, and then I'm going to check my dipstick, and then I'm going to continuously do that process until it's filled up. In the manual, look to see how much you're actually supposed to put in your tractor. Don't forget that once this is done, that you're going to start the tractor up, let the engine run, because you need to refill that filter and have the oil circulate a little bit, and then you'll have to check it once again and top it off to the proper cross hatching on your dipstick, or if it has a couple holes to that point. Okay, so I've got the oil all filled up in there. I did check my dipstick and it's at the right place. So I'm just going to put the filler cap back in, or back on. We'll just twist that up. Whoa, don't want to drop it. We'll just twist that in there. And then this here just goes snug again. There's nothing that goes really tight. Next thing to do, guys, is go to the back of the tractor, and I'm going to drain the fluid for the transmission, the HST. It's going to swing myself around. Now, when you're doing the 50-hour service, all you have to do is you have to replace this filter here, the suction filter, and the HST filter on this side here. Now, I'm going to do is a little bit differently. I'm going to drain all the fluid. I'm going to open up this nut here. This is the drain plug by the mid-mount PTO. And then there's 2 more bolts that have to come off. Now these are a little bit tricky in your manual. You can't really find them by looking at your manual. The manual is pretty lousy for the pictures. So basically you come to your axle here and you come inwards and you're going to see 1, 2, 3 bolts. It's the bolt in the middle. That's the second one you want to take out. And then on the other side here, I've already got it set up. And you can see here 1, 2, and 3. It's the middle bolt as well. So I'm going to break the nut here. I've got the ratchet already set up. Break it loose. I'm just going to get it off there. Again, the paint on there makes it really hard to get the sockets on there. And we're going to open this one up by hand. And I'm going to put that socket back on there. We'll just twirl that out. Again, it's going to be a washer on there, so make sure you don't lose it. Get the pan in place. Whoa, it's catching there. I should have probably had a cardboard underneath this one. I didn't expect it to go that far over. There we go. So let's let that drip down a little bit. So much for tips and tricks when I didn't put a cardboard on this side. There's a lot of fluid in the rear end here. So I'm going to take the socket and we're going to open up the other side here in a minute. This is a messy job, so be prepared for a lot of spilling. Try to prevent it as much as you can, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. A little harder doing this with for the video. Trying to get you lined up here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to break loose the nut here. They're not on very tight. So let's try to get it off again. The paint is holding it on. Now I'm just going to wait for the other side here to drain down a little bit more because I don't want it squirting out so far over. So while that one's going here on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the big one up here. The back ones here are both 12 millimeters for 30 seconds, so just less than a half an inch if it's standard. But the problem is if you use a half-inch socket on there, it's quite sloppy. So I recommend that you use the metric sockets. So we're going to open up this one here. Just going to grab my ratchet. And the one here is a 17 millimeter or 11/16 standard. So we'll just crack this one loose. That one's pretty tight, so it's loose there now. I'm going to have to use the socket to get that off because it's slippery. We'll get that in the drain pan as well. It's going to come out pretty fast here. I just let the nut fall in the bin so I know where it is. Now the one thing I did before I started, I did warm up the tractor and I let it cool down a little bit. And the reason I did that is so that the fluid would flow a little bit better. So the next thing to do is get that other nut off in a minute, but we're going to wait for the fluid to come down. Where the mid-mount PTO is just about done. The one over here on the axle is just about finished. So I'm going to open up this one here on the right axle side. I'm going to pull it out and hopefully it won't squirt so far away. Again, this you'd normally do underneath your 400-hour service. So that one's catching in the bin. That's good, not making too much a mess on that side. So we're going to let that drip for a while. Okay guys, while the fluid continues to drip, I'm going to take off the suction filter here on this side. This is the right hand side of the tractor if you were sitting on the seat. So let's get this guy right off. Now this would definitely be part of your 50-hour service. Draining all the fluid is not. Draining all the fluid is part of your 400-hour service. You can see there's quite a bit of fluid in there. I don't want the fluid or the canister to fall into the bin here. I'm just going to drain it here for a second. And I'll put it off to the side. Now the other filter here, the HST filter on the other side, the difference between the two filters, when you get them, the HST filter is the shorter of the two, and it's over here on this side. Hopefully you can see that. It's going to loosen it up there. There we go. It's nice and loose now. Again, we should get a little bit of fluid coming here in a second. Drain all that into the pan. Here, and I'll show you in a second here. You can see the difference in the heights of the filters. This is the HST. The other one was the suction filter. So if I just show you here, you can see it's a little bit shorter. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the filters. So to do that, just going to unbox them. And all you have to do is put a little bit of hydraulic fluid around the rubber seal. You can see here. So I'll just put a little bit on my hand, some new fluid, and I'm just going to rub it on. And that will help when I put it on. And that's the HST filter. That's the shorter one. And the other filter here, they come sealed up like this. Make sure that they are sealed and that there's no issues with your rubber gaskets, because if you do have an issue, then you're going to have a problem down the road. So same thing with this one. I put a little fluid on my hand here, on my glove, and I'm just going to rub it around. Now my filters are both ready to put onto the tractor, so let's go and do that. Okay, I'm going to put the suction filter here on the right hand side. The main thing here is that you do not cross thread it when you're putting it on. It should go on nice and easy when you're spinning it, once you do get it lined up. It is a bit tricky to get it lined up, so then we got it twirled up. The other thing is I did wipe around before I put the filter on. Now once it hits snug, you're supposed to turn it about a half a turn. So you turn it about a half a turn around by hand here. There we go. So that's good on that one. And now we're going to go across here on the other side. And this is the left side of the tractor. And we're going to put on the HST filter. And it goes up here. I just got to get the light over here so that I can see it. Get the light up here. You can see here the HST filter. And we'll just twirl that on there. And this one, supposedly, once it gets touches the surface, you're supposed to tighten it one twirl around using a wrench, but I'm just going to use my hand. Strong enough to do that. So, well, maybe not. Anyways, I got it nice and tight. I don't think that's going to leak. So that one's on. Now you can see here, basically, by the PTO, mid-mount PTO here, it's still dripping a little bit, so I'm going to let that drip just for a few minutes yet. Okay guys, I'm going to put the plugs back here at the back end to stop the hydraulic fluid. We'll put the large bolt in here at the mid-mount PTO. And then we're going to put over here on the right side of the tractor, on the axle in the center. Oops, we're just going to wipe it up here in the middle. Put the plug back in here. I'm just going to do them all by hand first, and then I'll get the wrenches on it. Make sure that you have your little gasket or your little washer, and there's a rubber little O-ring there as well. So, and then on the other side of the tractor over here, on the axle here in the middle, just going to wipe it up a little bit. Just going to wipe it here. We'll just insert it down here. A little dark on this side. Make sure you don't cross thread anything again. It's the same process for everything. I can't get that guy in there for some reason. The reason I can't get it in there is because I can't see it. There we go. Okay, just gotta get the wrench on it. On the ratchet. And we're just gonna put it snug. We're not gonna crank it. These are not very big bolts. Get that guy off of there, and then we'll do the other side. Hopefully the lighting's okay for you out here to see what I'm doing. Get that on there. I can bring my other arm in there. I'm trying to stay out of the way of the camera as much as I can, but it's pretty difficult. Just crank this up. Again, not too tight. Just get it snug and then just a little bit past that. Okay, that guy's tightened up. I'm just going to wipe this one up here a little bit, and then on the other side, so that we come back later and see if anything's leaking there. Okay, let's tighten the last one up here. Hitting the tire. Okay, we'll just put it snug, not too tight. Okay guys, so the next thing to do is get the fluid to fill up the back end here. Okay, let's get the back end of the tractor filled up with the hydraulic fluid. I've lifted the seat here, and here's my drain plug, or my fill plug rather. I'm going to pull the fill plug out. I'll just leave it there. If you would come by the back of the tractor here and try to fill it up, to try and get your funnel in here is a lot more difficult. So that's why I'm doing it from this end. I'm going to use a long funnel, and I can just stick it in here like this. Kind of locks itself almost in there. And then I've got a big funnel here on the top. And hopefully that's going to stay there. There we go. So now I've got that. And what I've got is this big jug here of hydraulic fluid, and I'm going to pour it down into the funnels. It's nice and comfortable. I've actually have it sitting on the armrest, so this is working pretty good. On my tractor, it's about 15 liters to fill. What you should do though for your tractor is make sure you check the owner's manual for the amount of fluid to put in the backhand. Again, it's the same process as anything else. Down there you can see the yellow dipstick. Fill up so much and then your fluid level, and fill up a little bit more until it's at the right point on your dipstick. Okay guys, I've got my fluid filled up. I did check the dipstick. You can see down here, there's my dipstick here. So I did check that. The fluid's nice. So the next thing to do is just pull the funnels out and put the fill plug back in. And now what I have to do is I'm going to run the tractor for about not 5 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes to get all the fluid for the hydraulics and for the engine oil to circulate. What's going to happen is that the fluid will fill up the filters, so the fluid should go down a little bit. And what I'll have to do is I'll have to go around and top everything up. After I run the tractor as well and top everything up, what I have to do is go underneath and check all the filters and all the plugs to make sure that there's no fluid leaking anywhere. If there's anything leaking, just snug it up and that'll be it. So let's get the tractor started. I'm just gonna put the seat down here. And if you come around here, you can see I've got the exhaust hose. I've got an exhaust hose for mine. And the nice thing about an exhaust hose is very flexible. You can see here they're very expensive, but to run inside the garage, I can vent it outside so I don't have to worry about carbon monoxide. So I'm just going to pull the hose around, come around this way. You can see down here I have my exhaust pipe. Got my exhaust pipe here, and all I have to do is feed it over and pull it down, and now I'm going to start the tractor. I've got the tractor in neutral, the brake is on and everything. And if you come over here and look at my dash, it's going to put this down here. You can see that I have 49.8 hours. Hopefully you can see that well. 49.8 hours. So I'm just going to warm the glow plug up for a second. I'll start it up. So I'm going to run it for a couple of minutes, turn it off, and I'll check everything up. Get back in a couple of minutes. Okay guys, that's a couple of minutes to let the tractor run. As I mentioned, the only thing I got left to do is just go around, make sure that there's nothing leaking, and to top up any fluid that is a little bit low. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up by hitting that like button down below. Also, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so by hitting the subscribe button. It will indicate when my next video is coming out. And once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Gelling Outdoors.